by which you live?
Passion, quality, integrity, and the things that my mommy and daddy taught me about being a Southern gentleman.
Patrick, your father died in 1982. This, I have read, was terribly difficult for you. It wasn't just something that you could accept.
I love that man. That, you caught me off guard, I'm sorry. My dad and my manager, Bob Lamont, the two most important men in my life, are dead. And I made it after my father died. My passion, that I was going to make that man proud of me till I died. Everything he wanted for me, everything he dreamed about. No, he never got to know.
You made him proud.
Oh, Jesus. Well, that was his problem. He thought crime was weak. Texas mentality.
Have you made him proud, do you think?
I think so. I think the one thing I really wish he could have known is he never got to know that Lisa and I get in this horse business and everything. I always had the dream that I'd buy a ranch and he'd run it, you know? And part of my passion for horses is to honor my father.
I can't think of any more wonderful, loving compliment that you could give him than the way you feel. You know, for the person who has not seen Dirty Dancing, whoever that may be, and who does not know Patrick Swayze and is meeting you tonight for the first time, what do you want them to know about you?
I've always had this problem with wanting to be liked, you know? That I'm a good actor, that I'm someone to be reckoned with, that I can give people something through my work that they see, they make their lives lighter for a moment, or inspired, or passionate about who they are and feeling good about themselves. And I can definitely swing my butt.
Hello, I'm Katie, and this is a very unique bonus episode of Retromade. Today, we're going to take a little detour and travel back to talk about one of our ultimate everymen from season one Mr. Patrick Swayze. And my guest today is Sue Tabashnik, and she is an author and devoted Patrick Swayze historian whose 5 books, the most recent, which is titled Patrick Swayze Still Inspiring. These books span everything from fan-fueled looks at Dirty Dancing to intimate portraits of Patrick and his mother, Patsy, helping preserve and celebrate his legacy on and off the screen. Sue, I cannot thank you enough for joining me. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Katie. I really appreciate it.
Of course. I mean, I can always get more Patrick Swayze in my life. I think we all need it. So that's why I'm very excited to talk with you. But before we get into that, I'm curious, given you've written 5 books about him, what's your history with Patrick, a.k.a. the Swayze, a.k.a. Buddy, to those who are close to him? So how did you come to know and love this extremely multi-talented, beautifully sculpted man?
I was always a movie goer. I went to the movies every single weekend. I tried to catch some new releases. Well, one weekend back in 1987, Dirty Dancing was a new release. And I was just mesmerized with Patrick. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but North and South, a TV miniseries about the Civil War, had come out earlier, and I really didn't get into it. Okay. But Dirty Dancing, it just captured me, and I was one of the ones who went back and back to the movie theater. People would say the lines out loud before it was even time for for the lines. And then I saw his interview on Barbara Walters. And I believe that was in 1988, the first
Okay.
interview with her. And then I just became hooked because he seemed like so talented, but also just a good guy, you know, passionate, caring. He broke down about his father's sudden death and wants to honor his father by, you know, having a ranch. And his wife, Lisa, got into the business of raising horses. So from then on, I was hooked. And then I joined his official international Patrick Swayze fan club, which is run out of the UK. I just got involved in that. I guess I should also note that at that particular moment in my life, when Dirty Dancing came out, I had gone through a really bad breakup. And the movie, and then him just helped me through it. You know, it just really captured me. So, and then getting into the fan club, that was just amazing. The more I learned about him, the more I, you know, saw his work, and I eventually ended up meeting him 4 times. It just really hooked me, you know, because he came to Detroit twice. I'm just outside of Detroit.
Okay.
So it was very close to me, and it was so unusual because I became very good friends with the woman who is running the fan club, based out in Scotland. But it was an international club, and she said, this is just so unusual. So he hosted Complexions Contemporary Ballet. They're out in New York, sort of an international company. They do a lot of outreach with inner city kids for dance. So I was just, before I met him, I could hardly eat or sleep for the 3 days, I think, before. It was just, and I never was like that with another actor or celebrity, whatever. And since then, never. It was just, you know, I didn't see it coming. So anyway, it was a dance concert. He introduced the dancers. I got a seat in the front row, which is not where you want to sit for a dance performance, but it's where I wanted to sit because he was giving a speech.
Oh, see him. Yeah, of course.
And it was, my aunt was there with me. She loved one of his movies, City of Joy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a reception after the concert. That was an amazing dance company. Patrick and his wife, Lisa, were on the board of directors. Okay. So anyway, we go like across the street. We're in downtown Detroit, you know, for the reception. And everyone is just, I mean, the air was electric, waiting for him to come in. And then he gave photos and autographs, and he just turned out to be a true Southern gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, would you like to hear the story? Or
Of course. Set the stage for us. So what year approximately, not exactly, but time frame approximately was this?
I think it was 2002. It was the very first time I met him. And like I said, my aunt was with me. I think she just sort of humored me, you know, so I'd have someone to go with. But anyway, we're in line and it's our turn, you know, and my aunt, you know, the throwaway cameras we used to use all the time. She had mine. She couldn't get it to work, right? And then she looked like she was going to pass out or something. So he put his arm out to hold her. I was like, I didn't know what was going on. And then he took the camera, he waves it up in the air. He can take this woman's picture, you know? And of course, we had volunteers. This lady who I didn't know who she was, she took my photo with Patrick. And I thought, I better get out of here. I'm holding up the line, you know? But he wasn't going to have that. So it was really hard to talk to him, though. The band was really loud and all that. And it was really incredible. You know, he really was a true Southern gentleman, honestly.
Yeah. I will say I read, and I talked about it quite a bit last season, covering his movies. And I did cover North and South as well. I had read the book that he wrote with his wife shortly before his passing and learned so much. And I became a way bigger fan. The man tried and did everything. And it does sound like he does sound like a good human. Did you prepare what you were going to say to him? I mean, I
Well,
just don't even.
you know what? The president of the club, fan club, had said, well, make sure you say hello from me, you know, because he really, with his official club, kept in close touch with her, like in terms of projects coming up
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But like I said, the band was so loud, he couldn't hear me. You know, I was sort of bummed
Oh,
about
dang it.
that. But that was the least of it, you know. And then I found out that a bunch of people who were at the reception, it was a benefit for complexions, basically. You know, you had to pay sort of a lot of money then to get in there, but the money went to the complexions. I found out because this guy I sort of knew from work, he was there. I didn't know he was there. And they all went to a restaurant in downtown Detroit. But having Patrick there, I guess with that, there was so much commotion on that, he had to leave shortly thereafter. You know,
Mm,
it wasn't
mhm.
contained enough or something. Because at first I felt really bad. Oh, I missed it, you know. But he came back again to Detroit in, I want to say it was 2004. It was the same situation, another
Okay.
fundraiser. And I was in the front row again. I went by myself and I met some of the people at the reception who were like administrators for complexions. And, you know, some of the dancers were there from complexions. I have photos. It's so cool. And I got to talk to him one on one again. My biggest thing, though, was 2003 in Houston. They had a premiere of One Last Dance, which was a long term project. And Patrick and his wife, Lisa, I mean, she wrote the thing, directed, he starred in it. A dance movie, a real dance movie, not like Dirty Dancing. I mean, Dirty
Mhm.
Dancing, the last scene and all when he jumps off stage, that's real dancing. But, you know, he had such a ballet background. And that was, I mean, a lot of people from the fan club came from all over the world. And of course, people from the States and Canada. And they really, it was really well planned. I mean, we got to sit in the movie theater where the movie was premiering. You know, they had 4 theaters in this complex for this event. It was all for this movie, but we got to sit like right in front of his family and
Oh, wow.
friends. And Patrick and Lisa, they introduced the movie. There was a reception after the movie at a hotel. He's running around, no bodyguard, talking to everyone. He's doing TV interviews. And I got to talk to him on a one-to-one. He could hear me then.
What did you
And
say? What did you
it's
talk
like,
about?
yeah, I mean, we talked about the movie, and he was telling me how a soundtrack was coming out. I mean, he sings 2 songs in that movie. I know a lot of people don't really know he was a songwriter and a singer. I mean, we might know from
Well, he
Dirty
had.
Dancing, She's
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
Wind.
Mhm.
And I mean, he sang in Roadhouse,
Roadhouse.
and then this movie, One Last Dance, and a couple other ones. And he was very, like you said, he could do anything. He was so talented. And I think he had planned on doing more with the music later on.
Mm.
But sadly, I mean, I know there was a lot of stuff he wrote, a lot of songs that never got released. And
Mhm.
at this point, I doubt if they ever will. But he was just multi-talented. But anyway, the theme of this movie, One Last Dance, have you seen that at all?
I don't think so.
Okay. Unfortunately, it didn't really do. I think it went right to video or something.
Okay.
I mean, I love the dancing, and a lot of people criticize like the plot and the acting, not his acting, but and the music was really cool. The guy who wrote She's Like the Wind with Patrick, he did the
Mhm.
composing of the music for
Oh,
this.
nice.
But anyway, the theme was it's never too late to have a dream and never give up on your dreams.
Oh, I love that.
And so that got me going. And that's when I decided, you know what? I've been writing these articles for the fan club. I'm going to write a book.
Are
And
you an
that's,
author by trade? But
pardon me?
had Had you been a writer before that, like as your trade?
No, I was a psych social worker. I mean, I did that for like 40 years.
Uh-huh.
And I sort of dabbled a little bit in writing, but I never took a class in it. I never thought of me of being an author, but what had happened was after I met Patrick the first time in Detroit, the head of the fan club said, "Would you mind writing an article for our magazine?" It was a quarterly magazine, because all the fans will live vicariously through you because you got to meet him and talk to him. And, I got photos from the Detroit Music Hall who sponsored the event. And so that was really my beginning because I ended up writing like 13 articles for them
Oh,
over
okay.
like a 7-year period. I mean, I got good feedback. It made me feel good. And of course, what a better subject to write about than Patrick.
Oh my gosh. And I'm so thankful that you did. We'll get into your books in a little bit because obviously we want to learn more. And thank you for those stories. I could not be more jealous. I mean, I'm a little kid when Dirty Dancing came out, so I
Okay.
saw it like on a like VHS tape, but boy, what a phenomenon, right? And the one thing in doing my podcast, and a lot of other hosts of other shows that guest on my show are men, and just they happen to be like teenagers or young boys at the time, and so for whatever reason, it didn't take them, or they maybe didn't even watch it because you know clearly now they would be more secure in their masculinity, but I don't know. It still seems odd to me that they wouldn't have given it a chance because beautiful women are also in it,
Yes.
and it is sexy AF.
Yes.
So yeah, if anybody out there, has not seen Dirty Dancing because you thought it was just like a frilly girly dance movie, it's not. It is hot, and everybody in it is hot. So give it a go, and then tons of other Patrick movies. So speaking of Sue, what is your favorite Patrick Swayze movie?
Oh, wow. I really have to say Dirty Dancing, but I do want to say my second favorite is Three Wishes, which probably most people have never heard of.
I covered it on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, their favorite might be Ghost, and I like that, but it just didn't hit me the same way. And I do want to say about Dirty Dancing, though, in response to some of what you were saying. My dad really liked the movie, and he wasn't even a movie guy. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? All the stuff about the Catskills and everything. It was just, and I was just so happy that I got to talk with people who were involved with Dirty Dancing, in terms of my books. But I would
Mhm.
have to say that is my favorite. I don't know if I should say this. I don't watch it as much as what I used to,
Mhm.
but I really racked up a lot of times watching it. And, we have if you want to call it Dirty Dancing 2 or a sequel, supposedly
Oh,
coming
sure.
out.
Havana Nights? Is that?
No, that's a prequel, but
Oh,
there's a
okay.
new one coming out. It's been in the works for quite a while. And now they're saying not this summer, but the summer of 2027, because that's actually the 40th anniversary
Oh,
of Dirty
sure.
Dancing.
Oh, well, I'm just very curious about that. So I'll be watching. Yeah, I think Dirty Dancing is probably my favorite. I also really love Roadhouse.
Oh,
Like
yeah, that's
I d-
cool.
that's the one that I think gets guys like
Mhm.
jazzed about Patrick Swayze, but or just the movies. It's not like a well-made movie, but it's really quite good actually,
Yeah, I think
like
it is too. I
anyway.
watched it again because they had a Roadhouse remake come out, and I thought
Oh, yeah.
I didn't enjoy it. Let's just put it that way. But
You know what? Yeah, same. I covered that as a bonus episode because the guests that I had on for the original Roadhouse, we were like, this is really good. Sometimes you think back on things and you're like, oh, it was a bad movie, but we just liked it. And we're like, this is actually really good. And then we covered the remake and we did not care for it
okay,
also.
yeah, I also like Point Break quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was watching it just a couple of nights ago, actually. So, and I got to interview some people from that, two of the bank robbers.
Oh,
One was Patrick's little brother, and then one of the other ones for this latest book. But I just, he, he just what, the skydiving Patrick did in that movie, that's almost unheard of in Hollywood. He didn't use a stunt for that, stuntman,
Mhm.
excuse me, or stunt woman. Now the surfing, he did. There was a stunt man for that for some of the
Mhm.
surfing. I mean, he got fractured ribs and stuff from the surfing. The skydiving, he had never done that before. And his brother, Don, helped him out with that along with other people on the film.
Yeah, and not only can he skydive, but he can also fly a plane.
Yeah.
So we talked about that last season, which I'll have a question for you that I would like to pose. But also, so you said Three Wishes. Is that what you would consider his most underrated role, or is there another that you can think of?
Wow, that's a really good question. Probably. I was thinking of this other movie he did. It's called Jump. And when it came out, he was ill with the pancreatic cancer,
Mm-hmm.
but he did get the Best International Actor Award for that. It was a
Oh,
drama and it
okay.
was historical. And because of Patrick, I got to become friends with the film writer and director of that movie and
Oh,
stuff.
nice.
So, yeah, I mean, Patrick sort of, I know a lot of people have had experiences of making connections with a lot of people because of the club. I know a fan club sounds so hokey, crazy. Yeah, I mean, but this was, I'm still in touch. He's been in my books, Joshua Sinclair, for Jump. So in a way, he did get, recognized for that role. He really did a great job. It was based in pre-Nazi Austria. It was a true story
Oh,
about Philippe Halsman, who eventually, I don't know how much I want to give away, but he got charged with his father's murder. Then he ends up being like a important photographer for Life magazine. He
mm-hmm.
had all these real life celebrities on the covers and that. So, it was based on fact. And most people have not seen it because it's really hard to find. In the
Oh, it's one of
US, it's on the
those.
European
Yeah.
DVD
Okay.
players and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It never was in the theaters. But yeah, Three Wishes. Sorry to
Yeah.
go off on a
Uh,
tangent there.
no, no, that's okay. I mean, listen, if any people who listen to Retromade know that I'm a tangent queen.
Oh,
Um, so speaking of, to kind of get in the mood to talk with you about Patrick, so last night I started watching the TV show that he did, The Beast,
oh,
in,
yeah.
what was it, 2008 maybe? Or
Yes.
I haven't finished it yet, but I watched, the first few episodes, and that is quite good. And I have a feeling it would have continued on and become, well received had he not, gotten sick and passed away.
I totally agree. But there's no way they could make it without him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they had shot the pilot, and then it was after that he got the diagnosis. So he had
Mm-hmm.
to tell the people, affiliated with the show about the diagnosis. And I interviewed one of the writers and creators of the show, and, he was at that meeting where the diagnosis was told.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think Patrick was really grateful that they basically took a chance on him. They couldn't get insurance on him, if something happened and he couldn't finish the series. They just took a chance on him, and then thankfully it all worked out.
Yeah, so the plot, just as an overview, it's free on Tubi. So I urge everyone to watch it. It's set in Chicago too, which I love. He plays kind of a mentor FBI agent to a younger agent, but there's a twist. So watch that show. I do want to get your take on this. So I had mentioned that my first season was, I dubbed Patrick and Kurt Russell the ultimate everymen. So I covered their movies from the 80s and 90s, including Skate Town USA, which is actually 1979. But I was like, that's his first. I have to cover it. And oh my, I kind of called it Dirty Dancing on skates. Oh, so, but since I paired those together, I'm curious if you think Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell, particularly at that time, look alike.
Yeah, I definitely think they do. And I was watching some new TV thing the other night, and I thought, wow, Kurt Russell stars in it, and he looks mighty fine.
Oh, doesn't he? He
Yeah.
and Patrick. Yeah. I mean, there's a number of reasons I wanted to put them together. But I asked every guest that came on the show that season that question. And I think there were several people kind of on my side. They're like, yes, of course. And some that were like, I don't know if I see it. So thank you. I'm glad that you see it. And I think the biggest travesty here is that we didn't get a movie, of them together at all, but they needed to play brothers, in my opinion, in a movie.
Oh yeah, they could have been in Next of Kin.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, I don't know. It was okay movie, but it wasn't up there in my top of my list.
No, but I'll still watch it. Patrick's in it.
Absolutely.
So last question before we get into your books. If someone somehow missed the whole Patrick Swayze era, which I don't know how that would be possible. I mean, some of the youngins now, maybe. What is the one role that you'd show them first so that they could understand why he mattered?
Wow. I was debating between North and South and Dirty Dancing and Ghosts. I mean, that's a tough question, but the Dirty Dancing, he has the dancing, he had to tone it down except for the last scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a dance movie. I mean, dance is a great part of the movie. North and South shows him from a young man until, throughout the years. And he plays a Southern gentleman, which was really what he was in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And most, they say, because of his dance background, no one could really have done that as well as Patrick, And the story about how they didn't want him.
Mm-hmm.
Ew, we're going to hire that guy from Roadhouse. Oh, and then he went in there and did the audition. He had to beg for an audition, basically, and then he had everyone in tears.
Of course.
And, the audition. So he did like 33 cinema movies. So at least I narrowed it down to 3.
You did it. That's good. I think for a shorter attention span audience, probably Dirty Dancing, but you now I'm just thinking back to season 1, and I think I remember, I don't think anyone can do a sex scene as well as Patrick. You're just like, wow, it's so sexy and sensual and like genuine. I don't know. I don't think I can think of anyone. He's very good at that. Men would want to be him and women want to be with him.
Absolutely.
He's got that.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And he, like for Roadhouse, what's her name? Kelly
Lynch. Mm-hmm.
Okay, like they had some, I don't know what the word is, some great sexual scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Girls are against the wall, sort of. And
yeah.
Apparently his wife helped him.
Oh my God. That would be, awkward. Yeah.
And of course, ghosts and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And, he would always talk about, relationships and love. It's a connection between the two hearts and the eyes and all that. But I think he probably was nervous doing all that, but he was always like, well, face your fears. do what makes you scared, you know?
That's a good
We're
point.
only
Yeah.
here for so long. Do it.
Yeah. And boy,
So,
did, I mean, ever prescient for him, which we'll get into. I have some questions for you about that later. But let's talk about your book. So, audience, and step in, Sue, if I get this wrong, but the first book that you wrote is from 2010, The Fans' Love Story: How the Movie Dirty Dancing Captured the Hearts of Millions, followed up by a 2013 book, The Fans' Love Story Encore: How the Movie Dirty Dancing Captured the Hearts of Millions. And then your third book sounds like it's your most popular book in 2017, Patrick Swayze, The Dreamer, which I would love to get into that a little bit more. And then you focused a book in 2022 on his mother, Patsy Swayze, Every Day a Chance to Dance. Love that title. And then your most recent book from just last year, 2025, Patrick Swayze Still Inspiring. So when we were talking about setting this up, talking about the interview, I had inquired why you might have wanted to write another book about him. And you said that you thought there were a lot of people who really miss him greatly. And you said yourself included, and I would like to say myself included. I 100% concur. And that there was more story to tell, and that you wanted to contribute to his legacy. And you were just talking just a little bit ago about his, like, the depth of love for him, and that love was something that Patrick talked about a lot. And it was evident in the book that I read about him by him. So tell us a little bit more about that.
you know, even when I heard that first speech in Detroit he gave to introduce that dance company, he said, I wear my heart on my sleeve, just like my dad did.
Oh.
And yeah, some of the people I interviewed in this last book, they talked openly about love. You know, these are actually included the two bank robbers from Point Break. And because he just seemed like the type of person that, you know, he wasn't casual about a lot of his relationships with people. And on the set, he really, I think everybody knows he put in more than 100%, but he also wanted everybody to succeed, whether it was on the TV set or the movie set, whatever. And these people, they talked about the depth of the connection they had with him and the relationship. When the movie was over, they were friends, you know, and they were in touch. And some of the people, he tried to help them out with their careers and stuff, you know, when they were at Sundance. And he would introduce them to people. And, you know, also the writer and director of Green Dragon and Powder Blue, two movies. Powder Blue was his last movie, but Timothy Landui, you know, he didn't know Patrick at first, you know, and they became friends. And Timothy would hang out with Patrick when Patrick was ill, and was at, you know, like a get together party kind of thing when Patrick was quite ill. And, you know, so I think he had love for his family, love for the people he worked with. And then, you know, there were several friends he had from childhood that he just was so extraordinary keeping up with them. In particular, one of them, he found out, even though he had been in touch with her for a long time, that her mother had died. And this was a woman who had taken dance from Patrick's mother and knew Patrick and all this and that. So he called her up. He's ill with pancreatic cancer, and he calls her up, you know, to express condolences, let me know if there's anything you need. And she says, well, how are you? I'm okay, you know, and all this. And then she finds out later that same day he had just found out the cancer had spread to his liver. And so that was, I think, really remarkable because he made it about
About
her.
her. Mm-hmm.
And he probably knew her mom a little too, you know, but it was from, I don't remember how many years or anything, but it wasn't like a current thing. You know what I mean? And that just, to me, that speaks volumes. And to me, it makes sense that he would be friends with a lot of people from the industry, considering his fame and everything, you know what I mean? Which he had to learn how to live with that lifestyle. But he talks about he liked making movies about heart. And that is not a theme in all the movies, but it's a very frequent theme. So
Yeah, he very much seems, and I'm excited to dive into your books,
oh,
Sue,
thank you.
because I haven't yet. But yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but there is like a something extra there, like a genuineness, like very caring, and he seemed so devoted to his wife
Mhm.
and just excellence for the sake of excellence, you know, not for some sort of fame or whatnot. So, but what's interesting, Sue, is that your journey as an author doesn't actually start with him as a whole. It starts with the immense cultural phenomenon of Dirty Dancing and the fans who kept it alive. So I'm curious, tell us more about your experience with that and also what, you know, I can only imagine that some crazy things that fans did or said. So is there anything that you can think of that really stands out to you as kind of crazy or bonkers or a fan story that you came across?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I was gonna get into something like this, you know, about a celebrity or actor. It was like not planned. It just happened. And I got this connection to him. And I think that's probably a lot of people did, you know. It wasn't just how he looked. And that was the whole thing he had talked about in an interview with Barbara Walters way back then. He always thought when he was younger, he was just the body, the machine. And would anybody like me for the type of person I am? You know what I mean? And he was always searching for meaning. He was very spiritual. They liked that about him for the movie Three Wishes. So I guess early on, I had that connection. I don't know how else to explain it. Oh, yeah, I thought he was hot.
Yeah.
He, you know, he was the sexiest man alive, quote, in
Mm-hmm.
1991. And he kind of, I mean, he was flattered, but he took it with a grain of salt because, you know, I mean, and his mom would say, with Dirty Dancing, he doesn't really understand why he's getting all this attention. And he's just a good old Texas boy. That was earlier on, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the more I learned about him, and then the connection became bigger, and fans have different degrees of connections. You know what I mean? That I wasn't
Sure.
the only one who had this connection. And it just to watch him with that pancreatic cancer battle. I mean, my grandmother died from that, so I
Same.
knew some about it, and they hadn't really made any advances in years. And I'm not saying they haven't now. I'm talking about when he had it,
Mm-hmm.
2009. And just to watch him, how he handled that was just, you know, we did that second interview with Barbara Walters. Afterwards, he said, well, maybe I should have done that, you know, because he had a habit of, in the interviews, a lot of times just sort of talking, you know, just spontaneous, genuine, like what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying. And, but I do know that was his fight with the cancer was very inspiring. And I had a very close friend who had a different type of cancer, but he was just getting in remission when that interview came out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cancer came back a couple of years ago, 20 years later. And he was still inspired by Patrick. I'm going to fight it just like Patrick did. So he did stuff while he had the cancer, like stand up to cancer. Is that the name of it? Like,
That
anyway,
sounds
their
right.
opening
Yeah.
speech he gave for their first event they had, the first benefit, and other stuff he did, like he mentioned, the Beast. And I mean, he'd fly home to California to get chemo on the weekends. I mean, near the end, he couldn't, of the TV show, he couldn't do the stunts as much
Hmm.
as he would have liked, which was not his way, was to do as much stunts
Right.
as possible.
Yeah. That had to be really hard.
Yeah, but the second question you had, I think, was about fans.
Yeah. Anything kind of crazy
Um,
stand out to you?
I do know that one of the bank robber guys told me that from Point Break. He
Hmm.
told me, like, when they were shooting that, he could just not escape the women. You know what I mean? They're trying to shoot the scenes outside, and it was nearly impossible. You know, and that's, what was that, around 1991, something like that. And there was a story, I can't quite remember the details, about on the set of Roadhouse,
Yep.
but
Similar, right?
something about a boat or something. I can't quite remember it.
I can't recall the details either, but it was a bunch of like middle-aged women that couldn't contain themselves over Patrick.
Right.
So it was hard to shoot.
But I do remember with the fan club and his fans, he was, as long as they were respectful,
Mhm.
he was great. He would sign autographs to everyone, got one. His movie, oh, what's the name of it? It's escaping now, where there were a bunch of nuns in it. Not real nuns, but anyway, it was filmed. I think it was filmed in Belgium. I know it was filmed in Europe.
Okay.
He had around 20 people for the fan club be extras as nuns. I know a couple of them,
Oh,
And who would do
cool.
that? I've never heard of anything like that.
That's solid, Patrick.
And then when we were in Houston, what I was talking about before, in 2003, our fan club president had a surprise for us. She arranged for Patrick and his mom, Patsy, to come on our tour bus. It was like the day after the premiere of One Last Dance. We
Oh,
were just in shock
no.
because we're like, why is Beth sitting here in front of this hotel? Why are we going? We're going to see Patrick spots in Houston, where he grew up, the house, where his
Hmm.
school was, where his mom's dance studio was. So his mom comes on the bus first. She goes, Patrick's going to be on here in a minute, but if you could kindly not take any more photos, his eyes are really sensitive from the night before, from the premiere. We're like, yeah. And I'm sitting like in the third row of the bus.
Oh,
And
man.
so they talked to us for almost an hour. We could ask anything we wanted. It was just so surreal. And I don't know how many actors or celebrities, whatever you want to say, would do that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It was just, I'll never forget it.
Again, you're just making me super jealous, Sue. All these experiences with him. That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank
Uh,
you. I
yeah.
have a video of that from the Houston. I have a hard time, sometimes watching his stuff. It's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
He was only 57 when he died, and his father died at the same age, so it's kind of weird.
Oh, oh, wow.
But
Dang.
I consider myself very lucky. I remember coming home from work. I was working as a psych social worker at the time, running to the TV to watch The Beast every Monday night. And I remember coming home, running up to the computer. What's new with fan club? It was just so much fun, and getting to meet all these people that some of them I'm still friends with. I mean, it just, from the Patrick world, it's just really crazy.
That's awesome. I mean, that is very telling as well that there's like the community that was built based around him, and that not just because he's a good-looking actor, but the experiences that you guys were able to have with him, and who he was as a person, which leads me to my next question. So you frame Patrick as the dreamer, which feels very intentional. do you think that his drive came from passion or maybe a little pressure growing up with somebody like Patsy? You know, what's his driving force?
You know, yeah, there was pressure from Patsy, but don't go beyond that. I'm not even going to get into some of the subjects that have come up about that. But like I said before, he was always searching for meaning. So he was into Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, he tried EST, crystals, you know, various things. I think he was raised as Catholic. But anyway, I think it covers more. I mean, I think his mom was a positive force and also a driving force to
Sure.
succeed. But I somehow think it goes beyond that. That's just the hunch, you know, the passion and spirituality and all that stuff about your dreams and helping other people with their dreams. I mean, it just all came together, I think, for him. Because, I mean, look, he had 4 siblings. There's only one left now. And, you know, you look at the other siblings and how they were all very talented, let me say, also. But obviously, Patrick was the one who got, I don't know, became, quote, the star, quote. So there's got to be more than genetics or the mother, you know.
Sure.
But I don't know. That's a really interesting question. A good
Yeah, I
question.
know. Well, so yeah, I mean, a lot of, I think, kind of what makes him special and that you've just given us a number of examples of is that a lot of stars really wanted to become famous. And he seemed like he wanted to be excellent.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think it maybe seems like that is something, one of many things that kind of separates him from other icons of his time, that particular time in movie history. So he has this, again, like, I think if you only think of him as like the dancer, you're missing a big component of Patrick.
Oh, yeah.
So he has this perfect, in my opinion, and I think this is another, like, what separates him. He has this like perfect mix of toughness and vulnerability.
Yes.
And do you have a sense of whether he purposefully cultivated that or if that's just who he is?
Well, I think it's some of both. You know, he was bullied a lot as a kid for being a dancer, taking violin, and he got beat up. And so then his parents got him into boxing and karate. And growing up in Houston in those days, it wasn't that popular for men to be in the arts. He talked about in some of his interviews, like, you know, at 13, he tried, well, you know, I'm going to drop the arts and just be cool and tough. But he said, you know what, it didn't work. It didn't change anything. They were still beating me up. And I decided at that point in my life, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to change for other people. So that was a very early, I mean, age 13 or so, decision he made. And I think he was super sensitive and he, you know, he used that, but he didn't want to get typecast into either a romantic lead or an action hero lead. Then if you look at his later films, you see there's such a diversity. I mean, he's playing a drag queen.
Oh, I almost forgot. He is so good in that movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
And,
he's so good in that movie.
You know, he talks about, I was going over some stuff recently because I have a project I'm working on making some videos and stuff. And I was just reading again that he thought, you know, he'll go in there, play a woman and all that. And then he got into the part and he's like, no, it's much deeper than that. You know, he got into the meeting of, well, what was her name? Vita Boheme or something.
Yes.
And
And
no,
she was like a Southern belle too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love the part where he punches the guy who's abusing the woman. You know, I just love that. So
There were a lot of good. That's
Not
a
that I
good
like the
movie.
violence at all,
Yeah.
but I just think that, that was him. I mean, that was his personality. His dad was a cowboy, although worked as a chemical engineer. And by the way, Patrick was no dummy. Just because he was good looking and whatever. I mean, he was very smart. And I'm not saying he was perfect. I want to clarify that because no one is perfect.
Right.
And he would
Right.
be the first one to tell you he wasn't perfect. But I think, his kindness to other people and his passion for the arts. And I mean, after Dirty Dancing, all these people sign up for dance school and everything, especially the men. It was okay. And for a lot of the guys who
Mhm.
became stars later, what's his name?
Mhm.
I always get it wrong. Is it Tatum Channing or Channing Tatum?
Channing Tatum.
Okay,
Yeah.
he was one
Mhm.
that talked about that openly. And there were others. I mean, he
Mhm.
just made it okay for the guys to dance. You can be
That's
cool,
great.
macho, and still be a dancer,
I mean, yeah, a lot of athletes take some sort of dance classes to, it's a skill that is helpful in athletics as well. So,
Oh, I think he said that was a base for him, knowing the dance, the discipline, just how to move your body, was a base to help make him so successful in the business,
mhm.
and his mom's drive for perfection, that's a two-edged sword. I
Sure.
mean, no one can be 100% all the time. No one can be
No.
perfect, but on the other hand, it fueled him. So that was a challenge. But that
Well,
doesn't mean she was abusive to him,
mhm.
which I don't know if you've heard those allegations, but anyway. Anyway, what
What
other?
I do want to explore Patsy a little bit more because your book on her is really fascinating because it reframes Patrick's story a little bit. You really see where some of his discipline and intensity comes from. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to expand on any of that.
Well,
Also, I don't think I would have survived her dance school. So I don't know if any,
well,
Patrick certainly did.
let me just first say, when I was in Houston, I know, going back there again, 2003, I met Patsy, and she talked to me one-on-one at their reception
Oh,
after
nice.
the premiere of that movie, and it was like she was so down to earth, so gracious. Like, I said something like, "Well, you must get tired of talking to all of us fans. There's so many of us here." I would say there was about 1,000 people at that reception. You got 4 movie theaters worth of people there. And to catch her, and she talked to me one-on-one. She was just it wasn't that long. It was like for 3 or 4 minutes. And she goes, "No, I'm just so grateful for the fans and thanks for coming and all this stuff, And I was just blown away. And I was like, I go on the internet, I can hardly find anything about her. And it didn't seem right. She was an icon. I
Hmm.
mean, she trained all these people that became stars, but also many people who just took dance, but her dance lessons were life lessons. So I thought, I'm going to write a book.
Mm.
And then I had more people who wanted to interview me than I could. The book's my longest book,
Okay.
the biggest project, and I was just, she passed about, I think it was 3 years after Patrick or something like that.
Hmm.
It'd be wrong. It was in the same month and it only maybe 3 days away from the date in September that he
Oh,
died. So
wow. Okay.
I got to know one of the insiders. She's in the book. But I interviewed a lot of her students. Jacqueline Smith gave me an interview. I was just blown
Oh,
away. Because,
wow.
she started off with ballet and then she became, I mean, Patsy was like, you can't just be a dancer. You have to be a singer and an actor also. And
Oh,
then
interesting.
Jacqueline, she wasn't into musicals or anything like that when she started taking there. and then they call it the triple threat. And they eventually, of course, she got to Charlie's Angels, but so, but all these other people ended up, a lot that I interviewed ended up in the profession of the performing arts. And it was because of Patsy, Well, of course, they did the work, but I mean, she's the one who started it all, started it all.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just really, I mean, a lot of, I don't know how to say this, but I guess a lot of people really, I mean, there's so much about Patrick in that book. And there has to be. That was his mom, and people they think, well, I don't care about his mom, but see, just in general, not just because of my book, but come on, anybody, any family, their kids are going to be influenced by their parents. You know what I mean? Somebody said, why don't you write a book on his dad next? Well, he unfortunately passed away. Like I said, he was only 57. So many years ago, I don't know the exact date, but I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, Patsy had passed, but it was still very recent. I mean, I had some of the interviews crying during the interview I'm doing, I started crying myself here and there during that book and the last bit too. So the Swayzes really, I think, had a big influence in the performing arts world, but also with people in general, the kindness and the integrity and the caring. I have somebody in the last book who was very good friends with Patsy, Christopher Reardon. He was, he still is, an actor and dancer for years, did a lot of Elvis Presley films and stuff. He talked quite a bit about Patsy, and I thought that was important because they were very good friends. And I so appreciated his interview too, that he took the time with me. There are good people in the world and inspiring people,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Listen, I'm such a cynical person and not a big fan of humans, generally speaking, as listeners already know. But I'm so glad that you brought that up, because despite that being my general rule, I suppose there are always exceptions to every rule. There are genuinely wonderful humans out there. They seem to be in the minority, unfortunately. But it sounds like people were very generous with their time with you, especially getting into your most recent book. It brings over 40 voices. And
it did.
Yeah.
They sent photos and everything too. I mean, one guy from Point Break, he was one of the stud cameramen. He sent me 20 photos. No charge. No issue.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I have photos in all my books. The book with the most photos is the Patsy book, because, I asked people to send the photos, and, got licensed photos too, of course.
There were so many contributing voices in your most recent book, but I guess generally speaking, through all of your books and talking with people close to Patrick and your own personal experiences with him, what did you learn about him that surprised you after all these years?
Well,
or that we would be surprised by, I guess, as well.
I mean, I always knew he was well liked, on his sets and in the entertainment world and all this and that. But I'm just going to go back to the depth of the love. The people I interviewed for my last book, it blew me away. And, they still love him. I mean, I know Joshua Sinclair, I knew he loved him, but, like you said, I had over 40 people in the book. After their sets wrapped and stuff, they would do things. And he had really a big influence in the industry. I always thought he was sort of underrated as an actor.
Yeah.
Such diverse roles. And I think he was, I don't know if you asked about the last book or just in general.
In general, yeah.
Okay, so, and I had heard him talk about conservation before, and he had 2 ranches. especially the ranch in New Mexico. He's very conscious. He was working with the government on that. And he even had talked at one point about having a reality show. And he had done a King Solomon's Mines in Africa. And he
Oh, that's
really,
right.
the TV series thingy. And he really, I think when he got there and stuff and was there for a while, the conservation issues really hit him a lot. I knew he was obviously promoting the arts. And then he was an advocate for Arabian horses, which I found out more about that later. He did stuff for charities and advocacy that nobody really knew about because he didn't make a big thing out of it. You know,
Yeah.
I know once he did a thing for women and cardiac health. He went to, I think it was in New Jersey, and, you know, he was a guest speaker, and I thought that was really cool. And then there are stories about how he would go in. I don't know if they're true, but I think they're true. He'd go in sometimes to children's hospitals and visit kids and stuff. And he was very humble. And he also though had a great sense of humor. I was watching this interview he did with Conan O'Brien, and they're talking about, you know, how they're making the sequel to Dirty Dancing, and there's this rumor this other guy's gonna play the role, and what does he think about it? And it was really funny. But he had a serious side, the funny side, the romantic side. I mean, you know,
Again, he could do it all.
and of course, you know, he was funny. Like, he wrote the introduction for People magazine they had a special issue about the sexiest men alive. He wrote the introduction. I'm like, he did? And he would talk about how, you know, well, maybe I appeal to some women, but I don't appeal to every woman. And, you know, Sean Connery, he's really the sexiest man alive, not me.
I think you have it in reverse. I think Sean Connery's some people's jam, but Patrick is like most people's jam. Like, he's just so looks just purely on looks. I say this about very few actors, or not necessarily just actors, but famous people, because I'm sure there's really gorgeous people that I don't know. But he's somebody, one of like very few men that I would put as an example of what the human man should look like to aliens. Here's a perfect specimen that you could study of a human man. But yeah, I want to circle back to some of the conservation and charity work, because I think that was something I gained so much more respect for him, because that's something that I really care deeply about, the environment and animals. And it shone through how much he loved animals, just the way that he talked about his dogs, and yes, of course, the horses. And of course, you can't go to Africa without being just mesmerized by the beauty. I mean, it's like heaven.
Have you been there?
Yes. I'm going to go.
I've never been.
I don't know where he went, but I was in Tanzania and in a little bit of Kenya. But I mean, I feel like I'm being called home. And so anyway, so I'm feel a little bit of closeness, and now he's like on a higher pedestal for me, even though he wouldn't want to be on a pedestal. But I'm like, God, you're just such a kind-hearted, good human that also happens to be gorgeous and also happens to be so talented. Like, how is that even? And I was about to say that's unfair, but he did pass away early.
And he had his struggles, you know?
Yeah.
Alcoholism.
He's not afraid to show his warts, so to speak. Given all of your interviews, connections within the fan group, and just your love for Patrick, how do you, I guess, is there some level of protective nature that you have about telling his story? But I imagine that, and his legacy, but it seems to me like you're also very careful to be truthful. So how do you balance those things?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much things out there on the internet and gossip, and I just try to put forth things that, I don't know how to explain this, things that Patrick would be okay with. I mean, he never saw any of my books. He was very ill when my first book was almost ready to come out. I had a contact with one of his publicists, but I just feel like he didn't want to be the poster boy for cancer, you know. And
Sure.
but I tried to in the books. You can't. I didn't really want to leave it out. Well, a lot of people brought it up. I didn't ask them; they just brought it up, you know. But you don't want to dwell on that either. You want to dwell
Sure.
on the positives. Of course, how he fought the cancer and all that was, I think, inspirational to a lot of people. But I don't want to get into salacious or gossip or, things that were very personal. And who knows what the truth really was,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't. And I just get really mad when I see stuff. I'm on Facebook a lot. And when I see this stuff about, you really can't, you have to take stuff with a grain of salt.
Of
And
course.
he's not here to talk about himself. Patsy's not here to talk about herself. And I try to focus more on the professional stuff he did. Of course, how he was as a person, that they changed through and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
I really try to honor him. But like I said, he wasn't perfect, but who is? So I just try to do a balance. And
Yeah.
yeah, I do try to protect some things. And once in a while on Facebook, I'll write some comment. They're not directed to me, but I've gotten fans mad at me. And I've, as an author, been threatened. Not, I don't think it was from Patrick's fans, but I've had Patrick's fans like, who does she think she is? Or
Yeah.
they write this nasty review on Amazon or Goodreads. It's like, okay, you can have your opinion. I never claimed I was best friends with Patrick. I was a fan turned author,
Mm-hmm.
mostly from inspiration from him. So I try to take the positives because the world, the way it is now, at least to me, it just can be a harsh place. And I think when
Yeah.
there's positives to highlight, it's important. And like I said before, I think he was really underrated as an actor. And I think
100%
it
agree.
bothered him. He didn't tell me that. I mean, we didn't talk about that the few times I talked to him. But I have experiences for being in the club so long, meeting him 4 times. I even called in a talk show. I got picked the Donnie Deutsch show years ago. I'm sitting in my bedroom waiting for my turn. I was so nervous and I really messed it up in the beginning. And it was a surprise. Patrick didn't know there were 3 fans. They were having
Okay.
calling questions. I was sounding like a big dork. Then I got myself to, I couldn't talk at first.
That's
And
how I would be too. Yeah.
really, but then I got it together.
So were you able to ask questions in that? What did you
Yeah,
ask
and I
him?
asked him about dreams, you see. And not that you know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to ask him this because I'm writing a book on it. It was just
Mm-hmm.
one of the questions I had. And he really thought about it and gave great answer,
Of course he did.
So, but at least I was able to get out of being a dork.
I kind of forget sometimes just how young he was when he passed away. 57.
Yes.
Oh, God, what we could have had, so it just makes me a little sad or wonder what we could have gotten. So what do you think 73-year-old Patrick Swayze would be doing today?
Oh my, I think he'd still be in movies, whether the star or not, some of both. I think he would have been focused on his music more.
Mm,
Um, I mean, he gave so many interviews, which is really good for me in writing books, right? That I
sure.
have permission to use quotes, from the media. But anyway, I think he wouldn't be like totally involved in politics, but I think he would have some degree of advocacy for a lot of things. And I think the conservation, I mean, he had a 20-year plan for his forestry at the New Mexico ranch. And he was ahead of his plan. He's making good progress. I think he would have been a lot focused on that, and just enjoying his family and his ranches.
Yeah.
His Arabians and other animals.
Yeah. I love that. So could not be more jealous that you met him several times, got to talk with him, got to ask him questions. But is there something that you wish you could ask him now?
Oh, boy. Let me think about this. I think I would ask him something about, what are your dreams now? Because he had talked about how dreams change. You can have new dreams. And I would ask, has your philosophy of life changed? How you view things, how you live your life, has that changed, or is it basically the same?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, tell us, if we went and bought one or all of your books today, me and my listeners, what do you hope that we take away from reading the books?
I would hope that people could see, like, the dance and performing arts are really so important. And Patrick always felt like they help bring people together. That's number one. And number two, that kindness matters. Even if you're just one person, can make a difference in the world. And also that Patrick was a good guy. He was an excellent performer, but he was also a man of character and spirituality.
I love that. Yeah, there's so much behind the man, right? Well, before we close, two things. One, is there anything that we haven't touched upon that you would like to? And two, what's next for you? Is there any other iconic person, that you plan to write about, or any more Patrick content?
First of all, to the first question, I do a yearly donation to the Stanford Cancer Center because his wife set up a fund in his honor for research for pancreatic cancer diagnostic and treatment advances. So part of the proceeds, I'll say the first 3 books. And what am I going to do next? I'm not sure. I they keep telling me, aren't you running out of stuff about Patrick? Write about his father. And so I am a nonfiction writer for sure. And I thought about some things, but nothing has really clicked with me about the same passion as Patrick. You know what I mean? So I do have a website. It's likedirtydancing.com. And it has a bunch of stuff. I try to put up a lot of the interviews I've done and photos and updates about things about Patrick. It's got reviews of the books, stuff like that. So I don't know what's next for me.
And that's okay. That's okay. But to stay in touch with Sue, I will have her website linked in the show notes for you to all check out.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. And I think for me, what really stands out from everything that you've done is that you didn't just document Patrick Swayze's career.
Right.
You helped capture the feeling that people still have about him, which honestly is probably the bigger legacy, like the lasting, that feeling, like we all want more. Patrick is special. And so, Sue, I cannot thank you enough for writing these books. I'm excited to dive in and sharing your insights with Retromade. And should we check out your website, or is there anywhere you want to direct people to buy your books or follow what you're up to next?
Thank you. I would say anyone who wants to check out my books, just buy whatever bookseller you like to buy from, because it's all over the place. Oh, and I almost forgot. All the books are paperbacks and ebooks, but this last book is also an audiobook.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's on Amazon Audible. I'm going to be expanding that as soon as I can in the next coming months. If I look on Amazon, a review would be great. And put that in there. My website, you can still contact me directly also. Some people want autographed copies of books, and I have a contact
Oh,
form on the website. On Facebook, you can contact me there too. I'm really big on Facebook. And it's really hard to ship outside of the United States. But if you buy a book and you're not from the United States and you want my autograph, what I have done is I will take a title page from one of the books. They're all paperback, and sign it and mail it to you. Because the shipping costs it could be like $55 to get a book to Europe. So it's
whoa.
not worth it for any,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? I sent a
Yeah.
couple books out for people who are big contributors or helpers with the book, and that's how I know what the prices are. So I would thank you in advance for anybody interested in the books. I really feel like my last book is my best book. But as you mentioned earlier, the Patrick Swayze The Dreamer, which is from 2017, has been the bestseller. So there must be
So is
reasons
this
why.
yes, that was something I intended to ask you. So is it safe to say that your most recent book is your favorite?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just the depth of emotion and the quality of these interviews. And you do have to like a book that is mostly interviews, for this last one and the Patsy book. I'll say that. Some people like it and some people don't. Don't judge the book just on the introduction, please. And there's some cool photos that some of the people in the book sent me. And I'm just really grateful to any of the people who ever participated in any of my books.
Well, and to reiterate, I'll also list out all your books in the show notes as well. But to reiterate, you guys, Patrick Swayze Still Inspiring is her newest book from 2025. So check it out. And with that, until next time, be kind, rewind.